Hello there. What's up? I wanted to share some more technical training stories with you. This collection I'm calling Awkward Stories because it involved awkwardness, which is, in my case, mostly harmless uncomfortability. Let me explain. Way back when, I would put it at maybe 1998, 1999, I'm teaching at Syracuse University, night school, not the university, adult education. And I've got 30, 40 adults who are transitioning into IT, and I'm with them almost every day, every night. And in this particular class, I remember it was during the day. In the front row, I had a collection of black ladies who are all friends or colleagues in another industry and were, as a team, coming into IT. And they were right in front in this particular class. And I remember I was teaching them about computer hardware and how hardware works and so forth. So there I am at the front of the room. Now, this is, it's a long time ago. So at that time, I used a whiteboard. I don't think it was chalkboard. No, it would have been a dry erase board. And I'm outlining the relationship with hard disk storage on computers. And you've got the IDE interface. And if you're an IT person, especially an older one, you know where I'm going with this. And I'm like, well, there's two channels on the bus. There's the master and the slave. And as soon as I said that, I kind of paused. I don't think I paused. I was pretty professional and on point even then that I was a younger buck, very younger buck at that point and quite inexperienced. But I remember just that pause for a second. And I know I wasn't the only one who felt it. And I did wind up looking over. I side-eyed to the ladies in the front, and they were smiling. It was so cool. It was totally wholesome. But on that, at that instant is when I started changing my terminology to primary to secondary. I didn't call it out. It was literally just a side-eye smile kind of thing. And it worked out perfectly. And that was kind of cute, kind of awkward. Same job. Syracuse University College, as it was called in the old days. This was a night class that I was teaching. And at the time, my ex-wife and I, who were not even yet engaged or maybe just getting engaged, lived quite a distance from Syracuse University. And in the winter, oh boy, we lived in Cazenovia, so we're talking very difficult driving. So I'm there ready to teach, and I ate my dinner and leaned back and yawned and popped the button on my pants. And these pants were not tight, and I didn't have a belt either. So you could say this is user error, but it was really close to go time too. So it was a really awkward experience, sucking in my gut, being afraid that if I laughed too hard or poached out my gut too much, my pants would come down. That was pretty awkward. That was legitimately awkward. Next, let's fast forward to Las Vegas, Nevada. Many years ago, I don't know how many, but probably 10 or a little less than years ago, at, I believe, a Tech Mentor conference. That was the only time I've seen John Saville in real life. But I was giving a presentation, and as I normally do, I like to get into my room early. So it was maybe 9:45 before go time. And I'm setting up my laptop and getting the podium all straightened away. And people are coming in, and I have some super learners that, like, if they come to a conference talk I'm giving, they'll sit right up in front. So I was having a spirited conversation with several learners, and I'm bopping back and forth. Maybe I had had too much espresso that morning. Who knows? You know where I'm going here? Yeah. I had a big old water bottle next to my laptop, and I with my elbow, and it dumped the whole thing, like 16.9 ounces or thereabouts, right into it was a Microsoft Surface, I believe. And, yeah. So mostly we're talking no moving parts. The Surface devices, even back then, I'm pretty sure were all solid state. That's probably what saved my bacon in retrospect. Of course, that caused a laugh and a stir in the crowd. Not so much a laugh, genuine concern. And Of course, looking back on it now, I was very stoic. Looking back on it, I know exactly why. I was cool as a cucumber, just continuing to act. And why, that's another personal story that perhaps I'll share with you someday. But I'm cool as a cucumber. I inverted the device like a tent, grabbed some paper towels, some attendees, got me some stuff, tamped and damped and patted. I figured we got 9 minutes to let it air dry. I'm cracking jokes and stuff. Well, it got to be go time, and in the meantime, as a proactive person, I'm asking around a little bit. Does anybody have a laptop they can let me borrow for just an hour? Be a lot easier to do that now in 2024, given the prevalence of the cloud. Back then, it was earlier days in the cloud, so it would have been more of a pain in the butt to get all of my session materials ported to another machine. I did have kind people ready to step in with their laptops, but I turned my Surface over, plugged it in, and no problem, as if nothing had gone in it. Now, the post-mortem there, pun intended, is, of course, the no moving parts in the device, or few mechanical pieces. And the mechanical pieces that you'd also be concerned with, namely the keyboard and the mechanism, that wasn't an issue because, why? Well, because it was water. Certainly, that was a fortunate, happy accident that I've always preferred water. Water is my favorite beverage on earth. I've never really liked soda pop, and I'm glad, because if I had a sugary Mountain Dew or something, oh boy, I've seen that many, 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 many times when I worked at Ensworth High School in Nashville. You can imagine the situations I'd see on those kids' laptops. And frankly, it wasn't always the kids. It was faculty and staff as well. Any other stories? Yeah, I've got time for a couple. These are a bit darker. One is there was a particular Microsoft Azure user group that had a particularly incompetent moderator. And there was a run of not one, not two, but several times. See, I was a fool for going back and back and back too much. I own that. That was my mistake. But a bunch of, I think they were Indian guys, judging by their accent, successfully crashed the session just to cause hijinks. And it was awkward because they were swearing and putting up pornography on their webcams. And because of the profoundly incompetent moderator bumbling with the controls, this was allowed to not only continue, but completely derail my presentation, which I invested significant time in doing and owed to the people who registered for the event and took time out of their busy schedules to attend said event. You see what I'm saying? Am I salty about it still? Yes. Will I be salty in the future? No, I'll get over it. Last story is when I was in community college. I went to Onondaga Community College in Syracuse, New York for 2 years. I didn't get my degree. It was one of those deals where you go the whole 2 years. It was a 2-year community. It is a 2-year community college. Now I actually think they offer bachelor's and maybe even graduate degrees. But back in my day, when walking up Onondaga Hill in both directions, to and from school, etc., it was just an associate's degree. And in my arrogance, it pains me to say it, but it's the truth, I was a big hotshot kid. I got into Cornell University. Yeah, Busta, I don't care about the OCC degree. Well, guess what? I'm 54 years old and I will miss that OCC degree. I really do. But that's another story for another time. I had a very influential professor at OCC named Paul Cassidy, who was a biology professor. And he took a shine to me, probably because he saw a lot of himself in me. And I admired him because he was a gifted teacher. And he had gone to Cornell. And he and I got to be kind of friends at the tail end of my time at OCC, around the time I was departing for Cornell. And I remember it got to the point where he started calling me drunk at night, and that got really awkward really quickly. He obviously had a problem with alcohol, which I can relate to intimately, but he was in the sauce, and he would do that thing of drunk calling. And it was really embarrassing, and I never brought it up to him otherwise during daytime hours because I would assume he was in a blackout and likely didn't remember any of the events in the morning. So I was just listening to him for a while, and he's long dead now, rest him. But He was influential to me. And you know why? It wasn't just that he was a gifted teacher and that he was a true mentor. It was actually the drunk dialing too, because I had a difficult time with cognitive distortion up until recently, and I don't claim to be free of it even now. But where I would assume things about people with, just out of whole cloth imagination. Wow, Professor Cassidy must have his life all together, man. He went to Cornell, he was a teacher. Well, I mean, he did have his life together. I mean, everybody has their life together to some degree or another. It's just that whole thing about black and white thinking, man. That's just such a V1 thing for me. V2 is shades of gray and continuum. And Professor Paul Cassidy was above all else a human being in all of its beauty and all of its ugliness. And he taught me a lot, and I'm always going to be grateful to him for that. Get off your soapbox, Tim. So that's it. Thank you. See you next time.